Oh man, well, what is up, Devo? Hey, you can go ahead and grab a seat. Man, it is good to be with you today. You just got to know, though, that clapping before a sermon is kind of like tipping your Uber driver before he takes off. Like, you don't know if this is going to be a five-star ride or like, is this guy like a serial killer kind of ride? So, hopefully, it's not the latter. But, anyways, man, I'm so excited to get to be with you guys today. And like Michaela said, my name's Taylor. My wife's name is Daly, and we have three little girls. Henley, who is 4 years old, Hayes, who is 2 years old, and our youngest Harper is 9 months old. So we like don't sleep in our house, right? And we always say that our house is like a frat house for Disney princesses. Like there is glitter everywhere. Elsa dresses are just thrown on the lampshades. There's lots of fart jokes. And somehow there are a surprising amount of moments where our middle daughter is just running around butt naked. All right. So it is wild and crazy. But just a few months ago, we actually packed up our whole lives, packed it into a U-Haul, drove across the country, and moved from Southern California all the way out here to Denver, Colorado, to plant a brand new church over in Central Park. So it's just like 2 miles from here, but it's like East Kansas to all y'all, okay? But man, we are so pumped for what God is doing in the city of Denver. And man, I've been pumped to be with you guys because you just got to know that a church like Devo isn't normal. I mean, we were here last weekend for the 1045 service and it was packed out. I mean, every chair in the whole building was pulled out, and I think the AC gave out because it was just so many people in this room. You know, a few weeks ago, you guys had 15 people jump in the game and join a serve team and use your gifts for the betterment of all of the people that are a part of Devo. Like you guys have had kids rooms that have been renovated, and then those kids rooms have had to be renovated because you just have so many kids showing up and you have to put them all over the place. Like back in April, 14 people got baptized here, which is just insane. And next week, man, even more people are going public with their faith through baptism, which is just crazy. Like there is so much to get fired up about and to celebrate all that is happening here. But man, what excites me the most, like, is not all the numbers. It isn't the packed out services or even the additional chairs that Nate is ordering, and he is ordering and buying more chairs, all right? But man, what I'm so pumped about is what God is doing in and through you, like the people of Devo. I mean, the way that you are good news wherever you go, good news in your city, good news in your neighborhoods, good news in your workplace and at the water cooler, the way you guys just show up to help and to love people where they are at and to help people experience Jesus where you live, work, and play is just incredible. I mean, you really are living out your vision to be a movement for all people to know God, find freedom, discover purpose, and make a difference. And I love that this is a place where everyone is welcome, where no one is perfect, where change is possible, because through Jesus, there really is hope for everyone. Like the down and out and the broken, the up and to the right, the OGs, the wannabes, the heroes, the zeros, the frat boys, the girl has gone wild, the moral failures, the moral elites, the moral police. Like all of us can come together, black, white, and brown, to hear about the good news of Jesus because there is hope for us. Amen. Hey, have any of you guys ever gotten caught binge watching a show? Anybody ever gotten caught binge watching a show in here? You know, like you watch so many episodes that Netflix's little "Are you still watching?" screen that pops up started to feel judgmental and personal. You're like, hey, once is fine, but 3 or 4 times, like, back off, bro. All right. See, in my house, my wife loves like true crime podcasts, documentaries, or docu-series. Any other docu-nerds in here today? Anybody else? Yeah, that's kind of us. You know, our first docu-series we got into was kind of a gateway drug into documentaries, had to be The Office. I mean, it is a fake documentary, but it is the most quotable show of all time. And then I'm pretty sure that the only way we survived COVID was by watching Tiger King. Anybody else binge watch Tiger King during COVID? I mean, if you have not seen this crazy redneck try to domesticate these carnal tigers, you are missing out, all right? And then if that wasn't good enough, we also got The Last Dance docu-series, which followed the rise of Michael Jordan and the Chicago Bulls in the 90s. And we found out that Michael Jordan takes everything personally, y'all, like everything, which is why he's the GOAT, all right? He uses that anger on the court. But I don't know if you've ever seen this, but back in 2016, Netflix actually released a lesser known true crime documentary called Sour Grapes that followed the skyrocketing career of a rare wine seller named Rudy Kunawan, who became the darling of the elite wine world. In the early 2000s, Rudy, who was only 29 years old at the time, was known for finding these unicorn bottles of French Burgundy, the most expensive, fruitful wine on earth. Billionaires and wine experts would revel in his collections. They would shell out millions of dollars at wine auctions to buy some of his rarest bottles. In 2006, he broke auction records selling, get this, $36 million of wine in a single day. I mean, the elites of the world, they were showing up and lining up just to get a taste of the purest wine from the oldest vines known to mankind. Or so they thought. Because in 2012, the FBI raided Rudy's home in California. And surprisingly, they didn't find a cellar of ancient treasures. No, instead, they found a laboratory which doubled as his kitchen sink. Because he was taking cheap $10 to $20 bottles of California wine, mixing them together in his kitchen sink, and then he would pour them into these old bottles. He'd print a fake label that he'd slap on the side of it, and then he would sell it for millions of dollars. In 2014, he became the first person to ever be convicted of the crime of wine fraud, and he was sentenced to 10 years in federal prison. In total, he hauled in and hustled around $50 million between 2004 to 2012 by mixing bottles of $2 Chuck in his living room at his house. Some of y'all are sitting here and you're like, I got an idea for a side hustle right now, all right? But don't do it. I'm just saying. Hundreds of people thought they were being sold the best fruit from some of the oldest, purest vines known to mankind, only to realize that they had been sold some bad fruit. See, they had been promised something real, something decadent, something irresistible. They had paid millions of dollars, not just for some good wine, but the best wine that money could buy. And instead of getting something real, they got something fake. And today here at Devo, we are continuing in a series that we've been in called Discipleship that has been breaking down what it means to really follow Jesus in our everyday lives. And today we are looking at what it means to bear good fruit with our lives. Because all of our lives will bear fruit. The way that we treat those closest to us, the words that we choose to use, our actions, our reactions, our emotions, and our responses are all fruit that our lives produce. When we get ticked off in traffic later today, when we're trying to merge onto I-25 and we decide to call someone number one by flipping them the bird, I mean, that is the fruit of our lives in action. See, Jesus said one time, by their fruit, you will recognize them. And what he's saying right there is what our lives produce says something about who or what we follow, whether it's following Jesus or something else. And honestly, man, a lot of us, we have been sold on some fake fruit. Did you know that in 2025, the American College of Sports Medicine ranked Denver as number 5 on the list of fittest cities in America? Like, if you want to turn that 2-liter into a 6-pack, move to Denver, all right? It's the city for you. Colorado is currently ranked number 2 for the most educated state in the US. 50% of people here have a bachelor degree or higher. And in 2026, Denver's economic landscape remains one of the most productive and prosperous and high-earning metros in the US. And yet, Colorado ranks 50 out of 50 of all states for adults with a substance abuse disorder of either drugs or alcohol. It ranks number 48 for adult mental health and number 47 out of 50 for adults who have serious thoughts of self-harm or suicide. The stats would say that we live in one of the fittest, smartest, wealthiest cities and states in the US. We are the pros at following our desires to look good, feel good, to live good, at rooting our lives in our own ambitions. And yet the fruit that those pursuits have produced in us are anything but good. See, we've got some bad fruit. We are more anxious. more isolated, more angry, more divided, and more alone than ever before. A few years ago, before we moved out to Colorado, I was driving on the 101 in Southern California when I looked up and I saw this billboard that said, "Welcome to freedom, Chumash Casino." And it really caught my attention. I think we have a picture of it right here. But every time I would see one of these advertisements, it felt like a visual oxymoron, like a big baby or jumbo shrimp. I mean, welcome to freedom? Like, is this what freedom really looks like? And yet, whenever I have followed my own way, my own passions, my own desires, this is the fake freedom that I have found myself encountering. See, in Galatians 5:1, Paul writes that it is for freedom that Christ has set us free. The question for us today is, are we producing good fruit from following Jesus and being connected to one of the oldest and purest vines known to mankind? Or are we just doing our own thing, following our own desires, following our own passions, and just mixing $2 chuck in the kitchen sink while our lives are producing some fake fruit? And man, what if there's a different way? What if there is a counterintuitive, countercultural way to live from the life of Jesus that brings true happiness, true freedom, true peace, true contentment, true joy, true lasting fruit? Like, what if freedom is not found in taking control and following my ways and my wants, but actually in giving up control to someone who is so much better? See, in the passage we're going to look at today, Jesus gives us 3 small words that can have a huge impact on our lives. One of my teaching mentors is a guy named Mike Bro, and he says that there are some pretty powerful 3-word statements that can change our lives. Statements like, "I am sorry. Please forgive me. Don't call me. I'll call you. You just passed. You just flunked. You are hired. You are fired. You're cancer-free. I like you. I love you. I'll marry you. It's honeymoon time. We are pregnant. It is twins. We are broke." Like, sometimes it just takes 3 words to change everything. And today we are looking at a 3-word statement that Jesus gives us that is one of the most power-packed statements in all of history. See, in John 15, verse 4, Jesus says these 3 small words. He says, "Remain in me." And in Jesus' day, most people, they worked in some type of agriculture. They were farmers or shepherds. And if you walked around Galilee or Judea, the area where Jesus lived, you would have seen rows and rows of vineyards. Maybe you've been to Colorado's wine country on the western slope, or maybe you've taken a trip or a vacation to France or Italy or to Napa Valley where you've seen rows and rows of vineyards. But because of their familiarity with vineyards and agriculture, Jesus would frequently teach using these agricultural terms in stories. And all throughout the Old Testament, like the fat front part of your Bible, God's chosen people, the nation of Israel, was referred to as the vine. And in the first century, when Jesus was walking around, they were still known as the vine. It was this powerful image that would have evoked emotion in the first century Jews. It would be like how for some of us, a bald eagle or an American flag just evokes emotion in us today. And then Jesus comes along and he says, things are changing because I am the vine. I always have been, but a place is now being replaced with a person. So remain in me and I will remain in you. For a branch cannot produce fruit if it is severed from the vine, and you cannot be fruitful unless you remain in me. Yes, I am the vine and you are the branches, and those who remain in me and I in them will produce much fruit. For apart from me, you can do nothing. And that word remain right there, it's actually a Greek word, the Greek word meno. Can you say meno real quick? Say meno. Look at someone next to you and say, "Meno." It's kind of like, hello. See, Jesus says meno. It's this word that means abide, dwell, to stay in one place, to stand firm, to establish a permanent residence. Jesus says, I am the vine, you are the branches, so remain in me. See, the job of a branch is not to produce fruit. The job of a branch is to remain with the vine, to stay connected to the thing that can actually produce the fruit. And just like vines give nutrients and substance to branches, so will Jesus when we dwell in him. When we do what Paul says in Colossians 2, when we let our roots grow deep down into him and let our lives be built on him, that is when we will produce good fruit. When we stay rooted in the one who is more powerful, more loving, more wise than we are, it is only a matter of time until we experience real freedom. See, 3 words: remain in me, that can totally change our lives. You know, I love the way a pastor in Chicago named Steve Carter says that we have to keep the remain thing the main thing. In Galatians 5:1, Paul says, it is for freedom that Christ has set us free. And if we are in need of a breakthrough, if we are ready to unroot ourselves from our own passions, our own wants, our own desires, if we are tired of the fake fruit that we have been sold, if we are ready for some good fruit in our lives, if we are ready to let go of the weight of control, to break free of the shackles of our desires, man, can I just remind us today that Jesus came to set you and I free. Like truly free. And there's a few things that we can do to stay fruitful, to remain in him. And the first thing we have to do is we have to soak in his word. And you know, all growing up, I constantly got my name and my identity mixed up. For starters, my best friend growing up, his name was Tyler. So I still will respond to Tyler if you ever call me Tyler. And then I've always gotten mistaken for other red-headed dudes. Like when I was a kid, I had a cousin named Trey who also has red hair. And we got a picture of me and Trey and our family when we were young. This is me in like the red and the blue. That's Trey in the stripes right there. And so Taylor, Trey, I'll respond to basically any T name if you call me that. Then when I moved to California, some guys that I worked with had worked with a guy named John McNary. And this is John McNary. And so sometimes they would actually call me Little John, which is wrong for a whole number of reasons, all right? Then a guy moved out to plant a church like 40 minutes north of us, and his name was Jake Barker, and this is Jake Barker, and I have been mistaken for him a number of times. I did youth ministry for the past 10 years, so my lovely, awesome students would call me things like Ed Sheeran, Ron Weasley. They would call me Taylor Swift also. I've been called Owen Hunt for all you Grey's Anatomy fans out there. And if you think that I just showed a bunch of different photos of myself, you're a Harris, bro, all right? I don't know what to say. But man, a mistaken identity can lead to a crisis. And did you know that identity theft is on the rise? Like in this last year, 36 million people became victims of identity theft and fraud. People lost more than $38 billion to identity theft in 2025. And there is a new victim of identity theft every 2 seconds. Like in the words of Dwight Schrute, identity theft is not a joke, Jim. Millions of families suffer every year. But the truth is, there has been a fight for our identity that started way before the internet. And most of us in this room, if we are honest, our identity has been stolen for a long, long time. See, we have an enemy who loves to hack into our identity, to lie about who we are, that we are our past, that we are our shame, that we are worthless and unlovable. He loves to lie about who God is, that he is this mean, angry, manipulative God. And then he loves to lie about what will make us really happy, that if we just made more money, that if we just had that life, if we just had that wife, that if we could just nip and tuck and liposuck that dad bought away, then we would be happy. But I love the way that Beth Moore says, his word abiding in us, remaining in us, it frees us from the deceptions of the enemy. It gives us a true assessment of ourselves and keep us in line with God's purposes and on the path of love. See, Jesus says, remain in me. If you remain in my word, you will remain in my love. And if we want to bear good fruit, we have to soak in his word. If we want to break free from our own passions and desires, we have to soak in his word. If we want to experience true freedom and true joy and true purpose, we have to soak in his word. We've got to open up the Bible every single day and remain in it. Maybe it's time we download the Bible app and just start a plan, or we listen to the Bible on our commute to work. There are free Bibles in the back. If you don't want to take one, just tell yourself that you're going to steal a Bible and then steal it and go home and read it tonight. See, Jesus said that he is the truth and that the truth will set us free. But the truth will only set us free if we know him. And so we have to soak in his word. And then the second thing we have to do is we have to till the soil. See, this is where we go on an inner journey with God, where we don't just soak in His word, but we actually let His word go to work on us, where we allow Him to till the soil of our hearts and minds and lives and to uproot some stuff that maybe we've become rooted in. You know, Socrates once said that the unexamined life is not worth living. St. Augustine once said, "Oh God, let me know myself, let me know you." And Ice Cube once said, "You better check yourself before you wreck yourself," all right? And man, we've all got some stuff, some dead stuff in us that we have rooted our lives in. And if we are honest, man, it has been wrecking us and those around us for a long, long time. And usually we can unintentionally root ourselves in things like anger, fear, worry, shame, guilt, our past, our addiction. And usually we do that not on purpose, but because something painful has happened in our lives, something painful that we've tried to numb out or hide out or push away and tried to bury in the past. But God might just want to uproot that and deal with it together. Have you guys ever seen a redwood tree? You know, like these great, big, huge trees that will grow in these huge forests and can be 2,000 years old and grow up to 300 feet in the sky. I mean, the tallest redwood in history towers 380 feet up in the air. But did you know that if you can cut through one of these redwood trees, and if you examined a cross section like the rings of those trees, the rings on the inside would tell a story about what was happening on the outside that none of us would ever know just from looking at the outside? Like one of those rings might tell about a year of drought. Another might tell about a year of intense rain and growth. Another might tell a year the tree got hit by lightning. Another ring might tell about whenever it got hit by one of your stray golf balls on the golf course. But you know, like if we could cut each other open in a very non-morbid way, all right, I promise. Not the serial killer Uber driver, okay? Not that guy. But if we could see like a cross section of our lives, man, what do you think that would tell about us? See, maybe there's a ring in us that tells us that we just felt like we could never live up to our older brother, that we were only accepted if we could catch the ball, run faster, jump higher, or shoot better. Maybe for some of us, there's a ring that shows the time that we were just walking through the halls. And then that kid said something so cruel, so mean, and those hate-filled words ring in your ears to this day. Man, maybe there's a ring from when your dad walked out. Maybe there's a ring from whenever you had to throw fresh dirt on the casket of the person that you love most in the world. Maybe there's a ring left by the absence of never hearing words like, "I love you," or "I'm proud of you." Maybe there's a ring that shows a spouse closing the door for the last time in 3 months, 3 years, 30 years of marriage is it's just over. Maybe some of us, we've got a ring from when a family member or a friend, someone that we trusted, they hit us, they hurt us, they did something to us that they had no right to do. Maybe there's a ring that shows how you felt belittled when you revealed your true feelings and you were told to never cry. I mean, you got any rings? You got any pain in your past that you've tried to bury away? Because I do. Man, you got any situations in your life that you just couldn't control? See, usually when we encounter a painful situation, seasons where we feel like we have no hope and no control, we will either dwell or deny on that pain. We will dwell on it and we will think about it all day long, 365, 24/7, or we will deny it and never acknowledge that it happened. And our enemy loves for us to get on this pendulum of dwell, deny, dwell, deny, dwell, deny. But God has a different way where He wants us to deal with the pain. See, an author named James Baldwin said, "Not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it is faced." And this is some hard stuff. Like, let me be clear. You know, everyone wants to talk about the fruit, but no one wants to do the work to get to the root. See, a lot of times we like to Christianize what it means to take up our cross and follow Jesus, but it means that we set our face resolutely to the places in us that we would rather cover up. It means going with Jesus to grab a shovel and digging up the stuff that we have tried to bury in the past. It means to till the soil of our hearts and mind with His word in His way. It means going to the meeting It means signing up for counseling. It means being vulnerable at your small group. It means praying a prayer like Psalm 139 every single day, where David says, "You have searched me, Lord, and you know me. You know when I sit and when I rise. You perceive my thoughts from afar. You discern my going out and my lying down. You are familiar with all my ways." See, David is saying, God, you know everything in me. You know the good, the bad, the ugly, and the really stinking ugly in me. And yet I am so grateful. It feels so good to be fully known by you, to not have to hide myself from one more person. He goes on and says, where can I go from your spirit? Where can I flee from your presence? If I go up to the heavens, you are there. If I make my bed in the depths, you are there. And David isn't saying here, dang God, your 24/7 surveillance van is kind of creepy, all right? Like, why you always watching over me? No, he is saying, God, I know that you are always present to me. I can skip out on other people, but I can't skip out on you. I can stay home from work. I can dip out on friends. I can shake and bake and fake other people. I can dodge, dip, duck, and dive everyone else, but I cannot get away from you. And knowing that I am always in your presence, it doesn't scare me. It actually gives me a sense of security because you created my inmost being. You knit me together in my mother's womb. I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Your works are wonderful, and I know that full well. See, David is soaking in the truth about who God is and who he is. He's saying, God, you know me. You see me. You created me. I may be unwanted by the world, but I am wanted by you. I may be rejected by my family, but you knew me in my mother's womb. And your love for me is so great, so grand, so high, so huge, so intimate, so vast, so powerful, so fierce that I can face anything that gets in my way, anything the enemy throws at me, anything that shows up in my life, even if that thing is me. See, this whole verse is about God's intimate knowledge of David. And then David lands his prayer by saying, God, you know everything about me, but I don't. So God, will you search me, O God, and know my heart? Will you test me and know my anxious thoughts? See if there is any offensive way in me and lead me in the way everlasting. David is saying, God, will you help me examine my rings? Will you till the soil of my heart? Lord, will you show me me? You know, maybe a prayer we need to pray this week is, God, will you reveal what only you can reveal so that way you can heal what only you can heal? God, would you give me an awareness of the hurting, broken parts of myself so that I can uproot my past, uproot my failures, uproot my shame, uproot my anger along with you, uproot my need for control, and let my roots go deep in you. And then we'll bear good fruit. And see, this isn't something that we do on our own because then we have to add his power. Do any of you guys remember the old show Home Improvement? Anybody grow up watching this show, Home Improvement? All right, a few of you. You know, Tim the Toolman Taylor would host this show called Tool Time. And on almost every episode of Tool Time, at some point, Tim would ask the audience, he would say, do you know what we need? And the audience would respond, more power. There we go. That's what I'm talking about. He'd say more. He'd go, ha, 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 you're darn right. We need more power. And then he'd pull out like a riding lawnmower that could win the Indy 500 or something like that. And man, when it comes to life, the truth is we need a power that is so much greater than ourselves. The psalmist writes in Psalm 121, I lift my eyes up to the mountains. Where does my help come from? My help comes from the Lord, the maker of heaven and earth. In 2 Corinthians, it says, we felt like we were doomed to die and saw how powerless we were to help ourselves because self-help doesn't work. Self-help leaves us doomed. When we are rooted in ourselves, we are powerless. And do you know what we need? Some of you need more coffee, but no, we need more power. See, we saw how powerless we were to help ourselves, but that was good. For then we put everything into the hands of God, who alone could save us. See, no matter what we are walking through, we have a God of infinitely more power who is in control of the sun, the moon, the stars, who numbered the hairs on our very heads, and we have access to his power. You know, Nate's going to talk more about this next week. But in Romans 8, Paul says, the Spirit of God who raised Jesus from the dead lives in you. And just as God raised Christ from the dead, he will give life to your mortal bodies by this same Spirit living within you. In 2 Timothy, it says, God has not given us a spirit of fear and timidity, but of power and love and self-discipline. And when we depend on his power, not our own, then we will be able to be rooted in his word, in his way, and his spirit will give us the power to control the one thing we have, which is whether or not we will surrender to him. Because that's the last thing we have to do is every single day, we have to surrender to him. The branch surrenders to the leading of the vine. And in Matthew 5, Jesus says, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth." And that word meek there, we normally think meek means weak, like we don't like it. But that word meek, it actually means yielding. It is a term that was used to describe bridling wild horses. It is turning over the reins. It's giving God control. It's allowing God to bridle our wants, our desires, our ways, our passions, our sexuality, our marriage, our wallet, our eating, our drinking, our smoking, our grasping for control. It is surrendering all of us to him. And so can I just ask us today, man, is there any area of your life where you're bucking God? Where you're bucking his leadership, his direction, his authority, his purpose for your life? Are you trying to bear good fruit on your own? See, Tim Keller sums it up like this. He says that we see that freedom is not what the culture tells us. Real freedom comes from a strategic loss of some freedoms in order to gain others. It is not the absence of constraints, but it is choosing the right constraints and the right freedoms to lose. See, freedom is found not when we are in control. Freedom is not found when we are in the driver's seat. Freedom is found when we surrender to him and we let our roots go deep every single day, where we hand him the reins and we hand him control. See, what I am learning is that God can do more with my surrender than I can do with control. See, God used Abraham and Sarah to birth a nation. He used Joseph to save his people. God used Moses as his spokesman. God used Joshua to lead the Israelites to the promised land. He used Gideon and his ragtag band of 300 to defeat an overwhelming enemy. God shut the mouths of lions. He made Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego survive the fire. God used David to defeat Goliath. From Bathsheba's bloodline would come the Messiah. Esther saved her people. Elijah called Elisha. God used Jonah to rescue Nineveh. John the Baptist prepared the way. Peter built the church. Paul started a movement. And God used Jesus' surrender on the cross to pay for the sins of the world and to save all of humanity. See, God can do more with surrender than we can do with control, because he is the one who controls the winds and the waves. He is the one who set the tide and framed the galaxy. He is the one who holds time in his hands. He is the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. And his power is made perfect in our weakness, but only when we surrender to him. See, the choice for us today is pretty clear. Like, if we want to experience freedom, will we remain in control or will we remain in him? Will we be rooted in our power or his power? Will we follow Jesus or something else? And next week, some of us, we're going to have the opportunity to make that decision for the very first time through baptism. Maybe you've been around for the past couple of weeks or months, and you've kind of been putting off this decision to get baptized as an act of surrender. Man, next week is your week. You can sign up today by scanning the QR code in the seat back in front of you. If you aren't good at technology, you can give your phone to a 4-year-old after service, and they'll sign you up. It'll be great. Just kidding. You can stop by the connection booth right after this service, and they can get you signed up. You might be here and be like, have all these questions in your mind. You're like, I don't know. I mean, what will I wear? They'll have a shirt for you next week. You might be like, what about my hair? They will have professional hair and makeup artists here next week to help you out. All right, that's a lie. Okay, just kidding. You might be like, I don't know if I'm ready. Like, it's not the right time. Like, if you know what I did last month, last week, last night, you would know that I'm not ready to get baptized. And see, the thing that I love about Jesus is that we don't come to him when we are ready or once we are clean. We come to him in the midst of our mess, and he will clean us up as we go. See, sometimes we think that baptism is like the finish line of our faith, but it's not. It is the starting line. It's where we say, God, I am messed up. I am imperfect. I am not who I want to be. But God, I want to accept the freedom, the forgiveness, and the new life that you have to offer me. It is where we surrender to his leading and lordship. And we say, God, you can take the reins. I'm done doing it my own way. And God, I want to let my roots go down deep in you. Like it is the first step in remaining in him. And if you've never made that step, man, you can do it next week. See, when we remain in him, we will bear good fruit. When we soak in his word, when we go with God until the soil of our heart and life, when we uproot those lies of the enemy and we add his power and surrender control, we will bear the best fruit we could ever imagine. It will be like $1 million bottle of wine, better than you could ever dream. And that is when we will hear him whisper, welcome to freedom. Man, would you pray with me real quick? Man, God, we just thank you. God, we thank you that you came to give us the best life imaginable. God, we thank you that you didn't just save us and then leave us, but God, you came to give us a better way to do life. You didn't just come to change our someday, but you came to change our today. And so, God, we just want to surrender to you. And so, God, I know some of us, man, maybe we are praying this week. God, would you reveal what only you can reveal so that way you can heal what only you can heal? God, would you show us our rings? God, would you remind us what your word says about us? That we are your much loved sons and daughter. God, that we are your beloveds and that your desire is for us. And God, we thank you so much for Jesus and how his sacrifice on the cross, and it changed everything for us. And so God, we just surrender to him. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.